I'm going to go on the live show right now. So.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. How are you today? This is Yuridia, your host from Legal Conversation Show. Hola, ¿cómo están todos? Aquí está su presentadora de programa de Legal Conversation Show, Yuridia. Gracias por estar aquí con nosotros. Don't forget that you can share this and you can put a comment if you have any questions. We can do this in English and Spanish. And then make sure you share the information. Also, we are on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. We're going to put the information below. And today we have a special guest, Mr. Jerome Okolo. ¿Cómo está? How are you?
Pretty good.
Welcome to the show. I will do in Spanish and then in English, okay? So bear with me. Este show lo vamos a hacer en inglés y en español. El día de hoy tenemos al abogado, un invitado especial, se llama Jerome Okolo y es un abogado y nos va a estar hablando un tema de legales. Acuérdense de que si tienen preguntas pueden hacer comentarios o enviarnos un mensaje directo. También les quiero recordar de que tenemos en las plataformas de YouTube, de Twitter y de Instagram. Entonces ahí tenemos la información. El día de hoy vamos a hablar de temas de negocios. Today's topic is business law. And one of the most top questions about business law when it comes to our audience and clients, it's about LLC. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What is LLC?
Well, an LLC is a form of business corporation. What it means is Limited Liability Corporation is what the LLC stands for. Now, there are many types of business entities. So you may ask, okay, what is a business entity? A business entity is a form of organization of a business. So sometimes you may see somebody, he says, that's my partner. Or somebody may say, I own a company. A partnership is a completely separate type of business from a company.
A partnership is different than an LLC?
Yes.
Okay. Let me hold that and do this in Spanish then. Ahora, tenemos aquí el abogado de que nos va a hablar de negocios, de lo que se trata de la ley en cuestión de los negocios. Estamos hablando de que hay una entidad que se llama LLC, que en inglés se llama Limited Liability Company, que eso es lo que significa la LLC, que es una compañía limitada de liabilidad, ¿no? Entonces, él nos va a explicar de que eso solamente es una identidad de negocios, que ser socios es muy difícil que hacer esa compañía. Entonces, él nos va a hablar un poquito más de eso. Okay, so you said that LLC is an entity and the partnership is different, right?
Yes. They are both separate types of businesses. So there are many different separate types. Actually, people may be surprised to learn that there are up to 15 different separate types of business. But we're going to talk about LLCs today, but it's important, people just use words and say things, but it's important to understand that when you name a type of business, when you say, I belong to a corporation, or I belong to a partnership, or I belong to a limited liability partnership, every single one of those things means a different type of business.
Okay. That's new information for many of us. Sometimes we just think, I'm just going to open a business. I'm the only owner. Oh, yes, I have some associates. Then I want a partnership. And then you want investors. So that's how that's a whole different. Okay, 1 second. So, entonces vamos a explicar esto en español. Lo que está diciendo el abogado que hay un montón de identidades para los negocios, que se puede decir que está sorprendido si vas a saber que hay como hasta 15. Entonces, estamos viendo de que, como le está diciendo el abogado, de que a veces uno abre un negocio y uno dice, no, pues yo soy la única dueña de aquí, o quiero tener un socio, o quiero tener un inversionista. Entonces, debido al propósito que tú tengas, entonces es cuando se abre el negocio. Ok, pero entonces vamos a hablar hoy específicamente de la LLC. So let's talk more about, break it down for us, LLC.
Okay, so what makes an LLC, what makes a business different from another type of business generally comes down to two major things. One is the extent of liability. And another thing is the extent of exposure to taxation, how that business is taxed by the government. Those are generally the two major things that separate types of businesses.
Las que dice el abogado que las dos mayorías de la que lo hace diferencia de las entidades son estas dos tipos de cosas, que es lo de los taxes y lo que es como liability, que le llaman, ¿no? Entonces eso es lo que diferencia de un tipo de entidad al otro. Okay, 10. Okay, so what is liability? What do you mean with that?
That's a good question. Liability is how the owner of the business or the owners of the business become held responsible for the actions of the business. That is what liability means. So,
le estaba preguntando al abogado qué significa liability. Give me 1 second.
There.
Let me. Sorry, there's clients over here, so I get distracted sometimes. Okay, so you were saying that, remind me again what you were saying.
So liability has to do with how the owners of the business are held responsible for the actions of the business. So,
okay, entonces, liabilidad significa cómo es como tú del dueño quieres hacer responsable en la compañía.
All right. So, for instance, if let me just give you an example. If both of us are members of an LLC and we sign a contract on behalf of the LLC, liability means that if we default on that contract, or if something wrong happens in the contract, or there's a dispute around that contract, the person who is disputing the contract cannot sue I or you personally. The person can only sue our LLC.
So even though we both partners, I guess, what are we, associates or partners, or what are we?
LLC owners are called members. We are members.
Okay.
Right. So even though we are members of the LLC, maybe I signed the contract, so let me give you an example. If the name of our LLC is Jerome and Euridia LLC, and I sign a contract maybe for a lease, let's assume I sign a contract for a lease. I say, I represent Jerome and Euridia LLC. I sign my name and we enter into a lease. If there's a dispute around that lease, the landlord cannot sue me or you personally. They can only sue Jerome and Euridia LLC.
Okay.
Right.
Bueno, entonces está diciendo el abogado de que cuando tú abres una compañía de la LLC, por ejemplo, si él y yo abrimos un negocio, nosotros nos llamamos miembros del negocio y supongamos de que vamos a abrir un contrato para rentar un lugar y él firma y no paga o lo quieren demandar, entonces no pueden demandarlo a él directamente, sino que demandan a la compañía. Supongamos que la compañía se llama Jerome y Euridia, entonces ahí es donde se demanda a la compañía, no directamente a mí o al abogado. Okay.
So you can see how that is very useful, because that means that if indeed a court finds that Jerome and Euridia LLC was wrong by signing that contract and holds Jerome and Euridia LLC liable for, again, let me give you an example, let's say $1,000, that means that that person cannot collect $1,000 from either Jerome or Euridia. But
so how do they collect it?
They can only collect from the assets of Jerome and Euridia LLC.
Okay, I see. Because they have to collect it from somewhere.
Exactly. Right. So
it won't be.
So that's what the limitation. That's why if you look at the name of an LLC, it's called limited liability. That is what that limitation means. You're limited to collect only from the LLC.
Okay. When will be more recommended to open an LLC? What type of businesses are recommended for that, or how would you know that's what you need?
Right. I would say that the beauty of an LLC, actually a little bit of history about LLCs. LLCs are actually fairly a recent development when it comes to business law. LLCs were created to actually help small businesses. So,
Okay.
right, if you're, because, before in the history of business law, there was partnerships, there's corporations. A partnership does not limit liability, but corporations have limited liability. So for a long time, only the big corporations like Coca-Cola, actually fairly,
Yes.
only the really big corporations had limited liability. So LLCs were created to give small businesses the ability to enjoy limited liability. So the short answer is, if you're a small business, if you're contemplating pretty much any kind of business,
Yes. Are you gonna sit with me over here? So sorry, keep talking. We have another character over here.
Right. So like I said, if you're an LLC is the right entity for you, if you are a small business person and you
Okay.
want to enjoy limited liability.
Okay. Entonces, como dice el abogado, yo le estaba preguntando al abogado que si a quién recomendaría él o qué tipo de negocio recomendaría él que se abra una cuenta de registrada así de LLC. Y él estaba diciendo que si regresamos a la historia, esa identidad se creó para los negocios pequeños. Entonces, si alguien te va a demandar, no te manda a ti directamente, manda a la compañía tiene sus fondos que te pueden ayudar con eso, por eso se llama limitado. Entonces, él está diciendo de un ejemplo de los negocios que abren este LLC, que son negocios pequeños. Ok, moving forward. We have some couple questions over here. Let me ask you the first question. It says, how do I protect my intellectual property?
Okay. Intellectual property protection is somewhat different from an LLC. An LLC gives you a little bit of protection for intellectual property, but generally the best way to protect intellectual property is to take out a patent.
They call what?
Take out a patent, a patent or patent.
Okay.
Right, on the property. That is generally the best way to protect intellectual property. Now, an LLC, because we're talking about LLCs, will give you protection up to the extent of that same limitation of liability that we talked about. So, in other words, if you put ownership of your intellectual property under your LLC as opposed to under you personally, that means that to the extent that there are disputes around that intellectual property, the liability only extends to the LLC and not you personally.
Does this apply to people that are married, or that's totally different? Like where they're married, because we see a lot of this with family law. They get married and then they get divorced. Mm-hmm. Is that part of the marriage, or how does it work?
No. Membership in an LLC is completely separate from a marriage. So if two individuals who are married, if a husband and wife enter into an LLC and are members of the LLC, typically the divorce does not affect their membership in the LLC, unless, now when you're forming an LLC, there is a document that is called an operating agreement. Okay.
What is that?
Now, an operating agreement is basically the agreement that all the members of the LLC enter into, and it defines how they relate to each other. Okay.
And that is something that you do when you open the LLC, or is something, if you didn't do that, can you do that after? Can you add it?
Yes. It's not, I wouldn't call it a requirement, but it's definitely something. It's necessary. It's a necessity, but not necessarily right. It's not a requirement for registration. So the state of Nebraska, or pretty much any state, will not require your operating agreement But if you want to understand how you relate to all the other members of your LLC, then it becomes necessary for you to have an operating agreement.
That's good, because many people, they just go online, open an LLC, or just go with the taxpayer. Yeah. No one is talking about an open agreement document, operating agreement document, or bylaw, no, or patent. No one is talking about that. Okay, let me say this in Spanish so we can catch up. Bueno, le estaba diciendo el abogado de que qué pasa si las personas están casadas, porque hay muchas parejas que abren un negocio y lo abren con el LLC, pero ¿qué pasa si uno de ellos se divorcia? Entonces, ¿la compañía es parte del divorcio, sí o no? Entonces, él está diciendo de que no, que a menos cuando tú sabes, cuando abres la compañía te conviertes en miembro. Entonces, hay un documento que se llama Operating Agreement, ¿verdad? Hay un documento que se llama Operating Agreement, que no es un requisito, pero sí es importante hacerlo, ¿no? Como estaba diciendo, en español se llama un acuerdo operativo. Entonces, si ahí declaras, te voy a preguntarle a él qué es lo que es un Open Agreement. So, my next question is that, what is an open agreement? Operating agreement.
Operating agreement, yes. An operating agreement is, think about it like it's a contract. It's an agreement between the members of an LLC, and it defines how the members relate to each other within the LLC. So,
one example.
What was that?
One example.
Okay, yes. So an example. So that's an excellent question. The short answer is, this is why you need an attorney. I think you hinted about it when you talked about most people go out, and I know there are all these services, LegalZoom, and they'll file LLC documentation for you.
Oh, just going to like the person who filed your taxes.
Right. And that is exactly
which is the husband.
and that's a great question, because you hit the nail on the head. That is the problem that we're seeing a lot when people come and they formed an LLC and they didn't think about, okay, I just formed an LLC with my best friend because we have this great idea. And then when there's a dispute or when there's a problem or somebody sues them, then they come to an attorney and they say, oh, somebody just sued us. How do we defend this? And the first question I ask them is, well, where is your operating agreement? Because that is the agreement that says how we're going to relate to each other and how we're going to relate to other people. That's all in that agreement.
That was in Cuba, right? That we did? Okay. Right. That's something, well, lawyers, that's what I was telling you before we went air, that not everybody goes to law school. And even if you go to law school just give you like a little insight, what to expect. Right. And then when you start seeing the clients, then you understand the process. So for instance, it's like when you were saying the open agreement, operational agreement, it's a contract. So I'm going to say this in Spanish so people understand. Lo que le estaba diciendo al abogado de que ese documento de acuerdo de operaciones, ¿qué es lo que significa? Y dice que es una pregunta muy importante porque muchas veces muchas personas se meten en problemas cuando abren una compañía, y por eso es recomendable que vayan con un abogado, porque este documento de acuerdo es donde te dice y te define como de miembro qué parte tiene cada miembro, a qué se van a dedicar en la compañía, cuáles son sus responsabilidades y todo eso. Entonces muchas veces uno abre una compañía con la mejor amiga o con el esposo o con qué sea, con la familia, y no hace uno ese documento. Muchas veces uno se va al internet y abre una compañía por Zoom, o el que te hace los taxis te abre la compañía. Este es un documento muy importante porque si en un futuro alguien te quiere demandar, cuando tienes ese documento que te hizo el abogado, ahí dice y define cuál es tu responsabilidad. Okay.
So let me give you some examples of what should be in an operating agreement. So, for instance, the operating agreement defines what each member contributes to the LLC. So if you're going to contribute money or time or knowledge, it has to be defined in the operating agreement. The operating agreement defines when you make money, because you're in the LLC to do business and make money, hopefully, how are you going to split that money? Because you can't just assume that you're going to share it 50-50. You might not want to, so that's where you define that. You state, okay, when we make money, here is how we split that money. It defines things. The operating agreement will define things like when a member dies, what happens to their share? Does it go to the family? Because let's assume you didn't say all these things and you put in your will, my membership goes to my wife, but your other members don't agree that your wife should get your membership share. So then that's a problem. So that's where you define when a member dies, here is what happens. That's where you define things like if a member goes to jail or if he has a criminal charge, what happens to that membership? Does it affect the membership? You may say it doesn't. It's up to you. That's why it's a contract. So you kind of understand that the operating agreement is really where you state everything about how you want to run this LLC and how you want the members to have responsibilities towards the LLC.
Okay, that's very important. I mean, people don't think it's kind of like you say, it's a contract. Like if before you get married, do a prenup.
Yes,
before you die, do a will. So it's the same thing before you open a company, an LLC, do an operational agreement. Because exactly. It's true. It will. I can almost guarantee you that many people don't do this.
90% of the people don't do this.
Yeah, because we're not thinking about, well, what if someone goes to jail? Well, what if this person gets divorced? What if this person dies? You just leave a lot of room for disaster, I will say. I will say this in Spanish now then. Okay, entonces estamos hablando de qué significa este acuerdo de operaciones. Está diciendo el abogado que es un contrato, prácticamente es como un contrato donde dice qué es lo que tú contribuyes como miembro de ahí, ya sea que sea tu tiempo, ya sea que sea tu conocimiento o que sea tu dinero, y que también explica cómo se van a dividir los gastos o las ganancias. Puede ser 50-50. When you say they split the profits, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be 50-50. What if I want 90 and give him 10? Is that okay? And then I'm talking, you do all the work and then I get all the profits. Is that okay?
and that's the beauty of an operating agreement. I've actually seen agreements that are like that. If the members agree, in fact, I've done operating agreements for people where they contribute, one member contributes 90% and only takes 10%.
And only takes 1%?
And only takes 10%. And it's
10%.
Why that happened was the member who contributed 90% was a silent partner who had the money. So he put in 90% of the funds to start the LLC, but the other partner was running the LLC and had the expertise for the LLC. So the other partner put in only 10%. Well, I shouldn't call them partner. The other member put in only 10%. And the 90% member was okay with a 10% return on his investment because it's a passive investment for him. So there are so many. This is where you define what happens in your LLC.
Yeah, you have I think it's organizing, right? For the future, what it is going to look like. Yeah. I think it's having like a strong foundation.
Exactly.
It's having like a strong foundation. Okay, bueno, I will say this in Spanish. Lo que estamos hablando es de que un acuerdo puede hacer de que como los miembros, si él y yo somos miembros, yo puedo decir, okay, yo voy a ganarme el 90% y él solamente el 10%. Y él va a trabajar el 90% y yo solamente el 10%. Entonces dice que sí, que no hay problema mientras estén de acuerdo en eso, que él incluso en un futuro, bueno, en un pasado, tuvo clientes donde contribuyó el 90% y solamente trabajaba el 10% porque era un miembro de silencio y la otra persona hacía todo el trabajo del 90%, pero solamente recibía el 10%. Entonces, todo depende muy bien cómo te organizas con eso. Y también si una persona se muere o una persona va a la cárcel o lo arrestan, ¿cómo afecta eso? Porque no porque se divorcie ya el negocio se va para la esposa, o si se muere también se va directamente para la esposa. O sea, los miembros ahí dicen qué es lo que pasa. Entonces, como le estaba diciendo el abogado, es tener una buena fundación y una buena organización. Okay, move forward.
All right. So that is definitely why we recommend that anyone who is trying to form an LLC, has an operating agreement to go with it. Now, how do you form an LLC?
How do you form an LLC?
Right. Most states have, because remember, the LLC was designed for small businesses. So the states are going to make it very easy to form an LLC because they want normal people, mom and pops to be able to do it. So that is why it's so easy. That's why you can go online and have anybody file it for you.
Let me tell you, there's a lot of small businesses.
Right.
I think small businesses, they open as we speak. I don't know how much, but
yeah.
There's a lot of money in there. So the government is happy for that, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's so easy. Really, in most states, all you have to do is file what is called articles of organization, which is
articles. Okay.
Yes, and it can be as simple as it's very simple. It's just a piece of paper, really, that says the name of the LLC. It says the address of the LLC. It states what the LLC is for. And it doesn't really have to state. It can just be as general as that the LLC is open to do business. And then it states somebody who is called a registered agent of the LLC.
Yes, registered agent. We'll go in a little bit. Let me say this in Spanish. Dice el abogado de que es muy fácil abrir una LLC, que se puede registrar y todo eso, que incluso hay también un título que se llama Registered Agent, que es un agente de registro. Y ahorita le voy a preguntar yo a él quién es ese agente, cuál es su responsabilidad y eso, cuando viene el nombre de esa persona ahí. Y me está diciendo que es muy fácil de abrir, que no se tarda mucho, que el gobierno lo hace fácil para las personas. Y le estaba diciendo que el gobierno de seguro está feliz porque hay muchísimas personas que les gusta abrir negocios. Okay, so what is the registered agent?
Okay, and the registered agent, why the government wants that? Because, think about why does the government want all that information? All the government is interested in your LLC formation is the government wants to know the name of your LLC. The government wants to know your address, and the government wants to know your registered agent, because that is where you're going to receive notice from the tax authorities and from the people who want to sue you.
They want to know who to go after, right? Because if you have an LLC and you have members,
yes,
then you can't really sue them directly, and they want to know, okay, I can't just shoot to the air. I need to shoot a person. Right? So that's what they wanted, okay.
That's what they want to know. They want to know, okay, if we want to go after this LLC, where and who do we send?
Where and who? Yeah. If I want to take you down, Jerome, I need to know who am I taking down?
That's right.
Where and who? Right? And who? Okay, got it. Bueno, vamos a decir esto en español. Estábamos diciendo de quién es este agente registrador. Entonces, lo que estamos diciendo es de que el gobierno, ¿por qué quiere saber eso? El gobierno quiere saber a quién agarrar y dónde agarrarlo. Entonces, ellos necesitan saber el nombre de la compañía, que es la LLC, la dirección, el domicilio, donde van a encontrar, y quién es el agente, porque pues, ni modo que se ponga a tirar hacia el aire nomás a lo tonto. Tiene que saber a quién va a demandar, a quién van a agarrar, a quién lo van a hacer responsable. Just to confirm, the registered agent, it's not a member.
It can. The registered agent can be a member of the LLC.
But it doesn't have to.
It doesn't have to be, exactly.
But the majority...
There are actually businesses who are established, and all the business does is be registered agent for, like you said, there are millions of LLCs in the nation, and there are people who their businesses put my name on there, and I will receive notice for you, and you pay me $10 a month for that service. So
just to be a registered agent.
Just to be a registered agent, yes. Yes.
I'll charge you more than $10 a month.
Well, you're not really
I've been giving the name for free, man. Just like taking my name. Spouses charge money.
Think about what all they're doing is they're putting their name and they're receiving letters on your behalf. So for
That's
instance,
work.
yeah. So
That's work.
You pay $10 a month, and that's you have.
Yeah, and then I'm exposing myself. I'm in the eyes of the government. You know.
Well, yeah, but you don't have any liability. You're just receiving letters on behalf of the LLC and passing it on to the LLC. Sure. So, but anyway, the bottom line is you don't have to be a member to be registered.
You don't have to, yes, because a lot of people freak out, and they say the registered agent, it's on the LLC, on the articles of corporation, and they freak out and like, oh my God, they own the company. No,
they don't. Yeah.
They don't. They might be a member, but that will be established on the operational agreement. But just because you're a registered agent doesn't mean that you are the owner or you control. It just tells you that.
All the registered agent is the person who receives notice.
The person who receives notice. Ok. Para aclarar, la persona que es la agente registrada no significa que es el dueño de la compañía o que tiene responsabilidad en la compañía o que es miembro. Puede ser un miembro, pero no es requerido. Y solamente ese agente registrado es la persona que va a recibir el correo o notificación. Ok. Thank you for clarifying that. Let me see. We have questions. And there's a lot. Normally, there's not a lot of traffic today in the office, and today's like too much traffic. You're bringing a lot of traffic, Jerome. Okay. The next question: what business structure do I need?
Right, and the business structure. This is why it's hard to answer that question without knowing what you want to do. So this is why the answer to that question is you have to first of all define what your business is and what is important to you in your business, and that will guide you to choose the right structure.
Primero que nada, dice el abogado, la pregunta que teníamos era de que qué estructura es la que se necesita para el negocio, y el abogado dice que es muy difícil de contestar esa pregunta así, porque necesitamos saber exactamente qué es lo que tú quieres hacer y por qué lo quieres hacer. Entonces, ya sabiendo esa información, ya te pueden dar una idea de la estructura. Okay, very good. Next question. What financial considerations should I keep in mind?
To actually open an LLC is very cheap. Like I said, the government wants small businesses to open LLCs really easily. In Nebraska, all it costs you to open an LLC to file articles of organization is $100.
$100?
So, yes, that's the filing fee to open an LLC. Okay. Now, obviously, opening an LLC does not mean that you are in business. See, a lot of people think that once you register a business, then you're in business. No. When you register a business, all it means is that you have created the entity with which you are now going to do business. So you still have to think about obviously what kind of business, the investment you need for the business. So, I like giving examples. Let me give you an example. Yes. If I want to open a restaurant, right? I would say to myself, how much is it going to cost me to open a restaurant? If I do the analysis and find out that opening a restaurant is going to cost me $100,000, then that is going to be the cost of starting my restaurant business. Then I'm going to ask myself, okay, now I have $100,000. What is the best entity? What is the best business entity for me to go to business with? And that is where I will now say to myself, I think that I want to limit my liability because I don't want people suing me if they fall down in my restaurant or if they eat the wrong food or get sick in my restaurant. So I'm going to now open an LLC and open the restaurant under my LLC. So it will no longer be Jerome opening a restaurant. It will be Jerome's LLC opening the restaurant. So that if people fall down in my restaurant, of course, we don't want them to fall, but if they fall down and want to sue somebody, they can no longer sue Jerome. They will sue Jerome's LLC for their fall in the restaurant. So those are the considerations that you have to look at.
Ok, dice el abogado de que la pregunta que tenían aquí era de que qué consideraciones financieras tenemos que considerar cuando abrimos un negocio. Lo que estaba diciendo el abogado es de que es muy barato registrar esta identidad, que cuesta como $100 aquí en el estado de Nebraska, son los costos solamente del gobierno, ¿no? Para registrarlo. Pero eso no significa de que es un negocio, eso solamente significa de que es una identidad. Que, por ejemplo, un ejemplo que dio él es de un restaurante. Si él quiere abrir un restaurante, lo puede poner, quiere decir, bueno, si voy a abrir un restaurante y alguien se enferma, me van a querer a mí demandar directamente, pero si no quiero que me demanden a mí directamente, que demanden a la compañía, entonces el tipo de negocio que yo necesito registrar como identidad sería de la LLC. Así si alguien se enferma, no me demandan a mí directamente, sino a la compañía. Entonces, eso es que estamos diciendo, ya aclarando que un negocio es una cosa y la identidad es otra cosa. Okay. Thank you for the example. Because many of us, we think that LLC, it's a business, not an entity.
Well, and I think this is a good place to point out that you can also have a single member LLC. So, for instance, you can decide, and actually people do this, you can decide to open an LLC, call it Uridia LLC, and it's only you. You don't have any other members. The only member of that LLC is Uridia. And then you go and you purchase your home under Uridia LLC. Okay? That now means that your home is now an asset of Uridia LLC. Your home does not belong to Uridia. It belongs to Uridia LLC. So that means that if somebody, to give you an example, if somebody wants to, let's say somebody slips on your pavement, it's snowing outside and somebody slips, and they now want to sue the owner of the home, they can no longer sue Uridia. They have to sue Uridia LLC. So you can also have a single, you can also enjoy limited liability as just an individual.
Okay. Sometimes people think that is when you are the only owner, then you do like the sole, what's it called? The sole partnership?
Sole proprietorship.
Sole proprietorship.
Right.
Because you're the only one.
Yes, you see, this is the danger of a sole proprietorship. A sole proprietorship does not have limited liability.
So they can sue you directly. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, you are the sole owner of a sole proprietorship is the same as the sole proprietorship. So it's not a different entity from you. So even though you call it Uridia company, but if it's a sole proprietorship, Uridia company is the same as Uridia.
Look at that. When would you? We're not going to talk about that because then we will get out on the LLC. Because now I can see why there's we need like every week talk about a different entity because we didn't even know that there were so many. Yeah. Okay, so the last questions that we have over here. Well, I think you already answered that. How does a limited liability company works? Okay. What are some of the most important legal concerns to think about when opening an LLC?
Okay.
You already answered.
We've touched on a lot of them, but there's still one more important one that I would like people to know, which is that there are certain things that you should do whilst operating your LLC to protect yourself from something that in the legal, my good friend Nedu will understand this. There's something that we call piercing the corporate veil.
Okay.
And what that means is that the law understands that some people will open an LLC and use it specifically to avoid liability for bad acts. So because of that, there are certain things you have to do to show good faith in your opening the LLC so that the law will not come after you personally, even though you have an LLC. So let me give you an example. If you own an LLC and you're putting all the money of the LLC in your personal account, so there is no difference between your personal bank account and the LLC's bank account, that is an indication that you are the same entity as the LLC, and that could expose you to piercing the corporate veil.
How would it, what can happen to me? So for instance, I have let's go back to the restaurant. So I have a restaurant, and before I open the restaurant, I already have my own personal account.
Personal account, yeah, right.
Right. So I registered the LLC, and then I received some money.
Okay.
The money that I invested came out from my personal account, and now that I'm receiving profits, it's easy for me to put it back in my personal account. Yes. Instead of opening a new account.
Right. And that is what you should not do, because what you should do in that situation is immediately you open that LLC, you should open a separate account for the LLC. And, and now when you receive profits from your restaurant, you pay those profits into the LLC account, and then the LLC will now distribute gains to you as an investor.
Wow.
Right.
Okay.
That's how it
what about if I need to purchase or invest money? Do I move from my personal account to the LCS account and then use it, or I can use it straight from my personal account?
Yeah, if you're investing in the LLC, so there's no prohibition against a member investing in the LLC, as long as and again, this is where we go back to that operating agreement. As long as you define in your operating agreement, this is how, when a member gives money to the LLC for an investment, this is how that member gets the money back. All these things, I think, have to be defined in the operating agreement.
Lo que estamos hablando ahorita el abogado es de que hay unas cosas para protegerse, de que a él le gustaría, es de que cuando tú abres una cuenta de LLC, asegúrate cuando ya empiezas a tener las ganancias que abres una cuenta de banco aparte de tu cuenta personal, y ahí es cuando tienes las ganancias, ahí las vas a poner. Él estaba diciendo yo, bueno, si yo invierto dinero, tengo que sacarlo de mi cuenta y ponerlo a la cuenta esa para invertir, y me dice que para eso no hay restricciones. Para invertir no hay restricciones, pero cuando ya hay ganancias, no es bueno poner las ganancias en tu cuenta personal, tienes que tener una cuenta de banco del negocio. So what would happen if I put the gains on my personal account? So you already said it's not recommended, put it on the LLC account.
Yes.
Many people do that. So what is the trouble they get themselves into doing that? What's the problem with that?
Yes, the problem is that it now creates the presumption that you are the same entity as the LLC. Remember, when you created that LLC, you created a separate entity. The way I explain it to my clients is that it's like you had a child. When you create an LLC, it even has its own social security number. You go to the IRS and you get
the IT number?
Yeah, that is your LLC social security number. It's like you now have a child. In fact, there is a famous case, I think it's a Supreme Court case, that defines, yes, it is a Supreme Court case that says that business entities are individuals. So under the law, they are not natural people, but they have rights like people. Okay. So think about it. Now you've had this baby, that's the LLC, and when this baby makes money, you put it in your account instead of the baby's account. Well, when creditors or the taxman is coming for your LLC and they see that you have put the LLC money in your own personal account and that the LLC did not distribute profits to you, then the presumption is that you are the same person as the LLC. Therefore, they will now come after you.
That's a good way to put it in perspective, that you have a baby and now even the Supreme Court say, well, there are individuals. Yes. There are individuals, so treat them like individuals. They have their own social security number. So an entity is an individual. Okay, let me explain this in Spanish. El abogado está diciendo de que estas entidades se califican individuales, que hasta la Corte Suprema dijo que son individuales. Un ejemplo que él le da a los clientes es cuando dices, cuando tú abres una identidad que es la LLC, estás diciendo de que acabas de tener otro hijo, que tienes un hijo y lo vas a cuidar. Ellos reciben su propio número de seguro social y los tienes que tratar igual. Cuando ellos tienen ganancias, se los pones en la cuenta de ellos. Entonces, es un buen punto importante de qué hacer. Okay, well, that was good information. We are now, wow, it's almost an hour now. So is there anything that you would like to tell the audience, something that you think it's important, and with your experience with the client, if there's a message that you would like to deliver and say, you know what, I wish more people should know more about this LLC or how to start. What message you want to deliver to them?
Yes, what I would like clients to know is that you should definitely consult with an attorney. Just take an hour. It shouldn't, any attorney that knows what they're doing it shouldn't take more than an hour or two to consult before forming an LLC. It doesn't have to be expensive, you know, and I understand people are running away from the expense. It does not have to be expensive, but try as much as possible to understand the two concepts of liability and the tax implications of any business entity that you're forming.
Okay. And when you say an attorney, when we look for an attorney, it can be any attorney, or when we search for an attorney, what type of attorney are we looking for? How do we select the right attorney for this?
Yeah, that's a good question. Now, if I would assume, again, I'm not 100% certain, but I would assume that most attorneys understand the very basics of business formation. However, you know, I would still, you know, advise that you look for an attorney who has experience in business formation. So, you know, an attorney who at least has, you know, puts themselves out as someone who understands business formation or has experience in business formation, because you may be looking at your business as a small business or it's just a mom and pop, but you know, your business could grow. And if you don't form it right, like you pointed out, if you don't have the right foundation and you become extremely successful, and that small business becomes $1 million business, and suddenly your foundation is weak, then you know, that $200 or whatever it would cost to talk to an attorney for an hour becomes something that you should, you know, you regret not putting the effort or time into.
Yeah, kind of like a contract, like marriage, and
right.
When they're trying to, it's like, oh shoot, they never had a prenup, like with the Amazon guy or something. Well, who knows? Make money. It's a good problem to have, though. But let me explain this in Spanish, okay? Estaba diciendo el abogado, le estaba preguntando al abogado que si él tenía algún mensaje que le gustaría que más de sus clientes supieran esto, la audiencia de nosotros. Entonces él está diciendo de que es muy importante que inviertan, hablar con un abogado, tener una consulta con un abogado antes de que abran cualquier identidad, para que ese abogado les explique a ustedes exactamente cómo hacerlo, el proceso, y que tengan una buena fundación. Él estaba diciendo de que, le pregunté yo de que cómo es que uno selecciona a un abogado, cómo uno sabe que a qué tipo de abogado buscar, y él dice que en su conocimiento personal, él piensa de que hay muchos abogados de que tienen la experiencia de negocios o que tienen el concepto básico. Entonces tú puedes hablar con un abogado para que te haga eso y invierte, aunque te sean $200, que nada más se tarda como 1 o 2 horas hablar con un abogado para eso, porque es muy importante tener una buena fundación, así como en un matrimonio, hablar bien, por si se quieren divorciar, ya que están bien las cosas. Entonces es un contrato muy bien. Do you want to add anything? You want to say something to the audience? ¿Quiere decirle al abogado Nedu algo a la audiencia?
Well,
surprise.
The only thing else to add is that pretty much everything Jerome said is the correct thing. When you look for an attorney is better than no attorney.
Yes.
And most importantly, when you start a business, you always have to plan that it could grow big, so you get help at the beginning when it was still small, and before you get into any trouble.
Yep.
Yes. Así como dice el abogado Chinedu, que él confirma la misma información con Jerome, de que si te preparas desde un principio, porque no sabemos que en un futuro va a ser una compañía multimillonaria, que es un buen problema tener, pero siempre tener una buena fundación y organizarte desde un principio. Organization is so important, I guess.
Yes.
Organizarse es muy importante. Es prácticamente, that's pretty much, I mean, me as a client, that's what I will see it. Let me get organized. You look good in turtleneck, Jerome.
Yes, very hot, very hot.
You're a Nigerian boy. Hot is nothing.
So right after this, I'll take a long drink and go to sleep.
Yeah. Okay, we're live.
Okay.
Okay. So,
Tell us about yourself.
tell us again your practice about yourself.
Yes, I went to law school with my good friend there, Mr. Ibokwe.
This one?
Yes. We went to law school together, and well, my practice is personal injury and workers' compensation. So all types of injury is my main practice. And about 20% of my practice is business entity formation, non-profits,
Okay.
and advice for business entities. So that's
enjoy doing that? Because not a lot of people enjoy doing business law, explaining stuff like that.
I do because it's a part of law that is more of advisory. It's more of advisory than dispute resolution. So yes, it's a different kind of law.
And let me tell you, I get a lot of questions from the audience, especially minorities and immigrants. They constantly ask me, well, if I'm only here with the tourist visa, can I open a business? Or
Absolutely.
if I'm not a Jew, can you do that?
Absolutely. Okay. In fact, that's one of the beauties of an entity, because it allows you to have a different entity doing your business. It doesn't have, just always think about it like it's not me, it's the business.
Okay, it's a business.
Yeah.
What if you don't have any status? Like you have no status?
That's what
it doesn't matter. Your business
the business is an American.
Yes.
Your business is an American citizen. Because it was incorporated in America, it has a tax ID number, even though you are illegal.
Exactly.
Okay, let me say this because not many people knows this. And they always, you know what happens? They get someone that has papers, that has status to open the business for them.
No. Your business
so
is
let me
an
explain
American.
this.
Just like your business is an American. Yeah.
Okay, so 1 second. This is very important. Telling me that we need to continue this. I don't want to cut down this. Okay, so lo voy a decir en español. Mucha gente piensa de que para abrir un negocio aquí en los Estados Unidos tienes que tener papeles, o sea, estatus legal. Y aquí están diciendo que no, que la compañía es el americano. Entonces tú la compañía la registras. Si no tienes papeles o tienes una visa de turista, puedes abrir un negocio aquí. Okay, that's very important. Porque mucha gente piensa de que agarras una persona que lo registre a nombre tuyo. Okay, that was. Do you speak Spanish in the office or no?
I have my long-term assistant, Crystal Castaneda, is a native Spanish speaker in the Notary Public, but I unfortunately do not speak Spanish.
But they'll have someone that can speak Spanish.
Oh yes, absolutely. Just ask for Crystal Castaneda.
Crystal Castañeda, ok. Le estaba preguntando al abogado si habla en español ahí y él me dice que él personalmente no lo habla el español, pero tiene un asistente que tiene mucho tiempo trabajando con él, que se llama Crystal Castañeda, y ella habla español y a ella les puede traducir ahí o interpretar con el abogado y trabaja ahí con ellos. Ok, so you do business law, you do personal injury and workers' compensation. That's it.
Correct.
Okay. Entonces, el abogado también atiende casos de personal injury, que es accidentes de auto o cualquier tipo de accidente que tengas, y también accidentes del trabajo, que es compensación al trabajador. Y ahí vamos a tener la dirección. The address is 11605 West Dodge Street, Suite 5.
Right.
And then your phone number, it's 402-502-0512.
Yes, actually, we recently just moved. So the phone number is correct, but the new address is 6572 Ames Avenue in Omaha, Nebraska.
So 65, let me write it down. What is it?
6572 Ames Avenue.
Okay, well, we'll put it in there. But the phone number is the same, 402-502-0512. Okay.
Correct.
Well, thank you for the interview.
No problem.
Ahí ya tenemos la dirección correcta del abogado. Es la 6572 Ames Street. Y el teléfono es igual. Es 402-502-0512. Jerome, you open every day?
Monday to Friday, 9 to 5.
Fridays, 9 to 5.
Then on Saturdays, from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.
No, he said that he doesn't work on Saturday. He doesn't work on Saturday. You know that he already lives in Linden, so he's fine. He doesn't need to work that hard.
Well, even when I didn't live there, I just don't. It's not. There's nothing we will do on Saturday that we can do on Monday.
Yes. Tell us a little bit. Where are you from? Where were you born?
In Nigeria. In Nigeria.
Nigeria?
Yes.
Nigeria.
Went to school in Nigeria, but I came here for education and stayed for the wonderful opportunities in the United States.
You stayed. Well, you're not back in Nigeria, but so you understand the process as an immigrant.
Oh, absolutely. I went through it myself. I did.
Okay. El abogado Jerome nació en Nigeria, pero él se movió para acá a Estados Unidos para estudiar. Entonces le estaba diciendo yo a él de que él entiende el proceso de ser inmigrante y él dice que absolutamente que sí, él pasó por ese proceso y que él vino aquí a estudiar, pero se quedó por las oportunidades maravillosas de este país americano. Okay, and then you have family, you're married, and you have children.
Absolutely, a wonderful wife and 3 children.
7 children. Oh, 3. I thought it was 7.
No.
7 that you
unless there's some I don't know about.
Yeah, that's the beauty of men. They can have children they won't even know. Eso es lo bueno de los hombres. Él dice que tiene 3 hijos. 3, no 7. Tiene 3 hijos y tiene una esposa maravillosa. Say hello to your wife. Se me saluda a su esposa y a los niños. Y dice que él tiene 3 que él sepa. Si él tiene más, él no sabe si tiene más hijos. Okay. And lastly, your hobby. What's your hobby?
Reading. I love to read quite a bit and watching the real football. Not the American football, soccer.
Okay, so football, the goal. What's your favorite team?
Tottenham Hotspurs.
Oh, okay. Bueno, entonces le estamos diciendo al abogado que si cuál es su pasatiempo favorito y él dice que le gusta mucho leer y que él ahorita está viendo de fútbol, que el fútbol de verdad, no el soccer, que se llama fútbol. Y le está diciendo cuál es su jugador favorito. What's the name of the player again? Your favorite player?
My favorite player? Pelé of Brazil. Yes.
Pelé? Is he still alive?
Yes. Edson Nascimento de Arango. Pelé.
Su jugador favorito es Pelé. Okay, well, thank you so much. I'll let you go, and then we'll talk soon.
Okay, thank you.
Muchas gracias. Adiós. No se olviden entonces ahorita I'm going to say thank you to our sponsors. So Nedu, thank you because you've been a big supporter with us. Bamuni Bukwe has always supported educating and giving awareness to the people. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye. Acuérdense de que aquí están los abogados Bamuni Bukwe. Siempre estamos aquí para pelear tus derechos. Ahí tenemos la información de los teléfonos de ellos, el 402-345-5759 y la página, ya que estamos en Omaha y nos pueden encontrar por el internet también. Ellos nos ayudan mucho con los casos de migración, accidentes de auto. Si alguien tuvo un accidente de auto, aquí les ayudan, o si también si se lastimaron en el trabajo, aquí les ayudan, o si tienen problemas de divorcio, de custodia, aquí les ayudan, y obviamente que si tienen problemas penales, criminales, con DUIs o lo que sea, aquí les ayudan también. También tenemos a nuestro próximo patrocinador, que es Lingua Academy. Esa es una academia que es por internet, y ellos les ayudan a ustedes a aprender inglés, español, o preparación con los exámenes de ciudadanía. Oh, okay.
No, yeah, just okay. So she said.
Wait. Let me finish up over here. Entonces, si tienen preguntas, les pueden dar una muestra gratis. Ahí están los números de teléfono. Y también nuestro próximo patrocinador, que es García Associates. Lo que hacen ellos, García Associates, lo que ellos hacen es que ellos ayudan a conseguirte tu mejor médico o asistencia legal cuando tienes un accidente de auto o un accidente en el trabajo. Ahí están los números, el 402-968-5347. Ahí hablan español y ellos te pueden ayudar a cómo conectarte con tu mejor médico y abogado. Y obviamente con las chicas del salón, ellas siempre me ponen bellas con el maquillaje. Les recomiendo mucho el tratamiento que hacen ahí en Revive Salón. Ellos están localizados en el 4601 Sur 50 Street, en el Suite 101, que está como por la 50 y la L. Revive Salón, ahí tienen su página de Facebook y el número de teléfono ya aparece. Y están en Instagram. Saludos a Judith y a Ana. Vamos a llevar a la Gaby ahí también para que le hagan el pelo, para tratamientos de pelo, colores, make-up y de todo. Muchas gracias por todo. Nos fuimos un poquito más, pero estuvo muy interesante la plática. No se les olvide compartir la información. Estamos en Twitter, estamos en YouTube, estamos obviamente que en Facebook y y en todas esas plataformas. Pongan, si tienen alguna pregunta de lo que vieron hoy, pongan su mensaje, nosotros les vamos a responder, pongan sus comentarios y muchas gracias por estar aquí con nosotros. Bye, nos vemos el próximo sábado. Bye, bye.